There haven't been too many good shows. We can count on our fingers. My favorite would be Panchayat. It's that one show that I wish I had made. I've been around for a while. These are the darkest times that I've seen. I'm going to do the second season of Kohrra after this, and really, honestly, this is my last one.
It's a pretty bleak time for the Indian streaming landscape, to put it lightly. I've spoken to writers who've said they've never seen the industry in such bad shape. You hear constant horror stories these days. Everything from platforms no longer commissioning shows, to shows in development or even about to start production, which are either shelved or facing drastically reduced budgets. And these are all big, well-known filmmakers and writers. So how bad is it, and is there any hope in sight? To break it down, I spoke to one of the most significant storytelling voices we have. Sudip Sharma is the creator of Paatal Lok and Kohrra. He's one of the few true blue showrunners we have, a writer who stepped up and became captain of the ship of his own shows. Sudeep spoke to me about the crippling uncertainty of the current streaming landscape for writers, the caliber of stories we've been telling on streaming, his experience of working with Netflix versus Amazon Prime Video, his advice for young writers trying to weather the current storm, and what the future of long-form storytelling looks like in India. This video is brought to you by MUBI, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from around the globe. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/The Streaming Show. Sudeep, it is so great to have you on The Streaming Show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and it's lovely to be here.
I feel like so many of the conversations we've had on this podcast have been like leading up to this chat with you. So no pressure. But you are one of the most talented and significant storytelling voices we have. And I really wanted to talk to you about the state of storytelling on streaming, how we got here, what here is, and where you think we are headed. So just to kick off, what do you make of the last 5 to 7 years and sort of the entire Indian series story? I always say that the finest Hindi language storytelling is all on streaming, but we also have a lot of crap there as well. So what do you make of it? Do you think we've cracked the series format?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think we have good shows coming out. Not as often as we would like it to be, but unfortunately they are not a function of the system itself. These are outliers.
Exceptions.
These are exceptions. Really, the storytellers are also exceptions. It's unfortunate that in the last 8 years we haven't been able to build those systems and processes in place which would allow for few more of these good things to come out. It's a function of a lack of experience. We have to understand that Hollywood has been doing it for 30 years. The TV industry there has been doing it for at least a good 30 years. Best Wing came out was 89, 90, around that time. So they have like a good 20-25 year advantage over us. Having said that, it's also a function of greed, which has always been the problem here in India of doing something too soon,
following the trend
and doing it cheaper. It's almost like it's what we do with our industries, what we do with our with almost everything else, that okay, we are going to give you a cheaper, lighter version of the same thing, and be happy with it because it's cheaper and you're getting it faster, and it's almost like the BPO model that they're trying to process in here, which is not fun. I genuinely think we have a great streaming show within us. We have this breakout show that people the world over can watch and will watch. It just needs to be supported. The ecosystem just needs to, support that ambition. It's the lack of ambition, personally for me, which is the most disheartening part of it all.
You want the exception to be the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. Or at least if you fail honorably. And there's no problem with that. There's absolutely no problem in an honorable failure, but at least you were aiming higher. But, I don't think ambition is a word you hear very often in this town. I haven't heard it very long. In fact, it's looked down upon as, oh, this guy's, or the ambition is for other reasons or for other things, but not for the quality of the show. And we make it for
same but different.
Same but different. Or I'm going to give you a grand spectacle, or I'm going to give you a really big show, and that, but not that I'm going to give you the best show that you've ever watched. That ambition, I haven't seen that being professed ever.
Yeah. But no, something Sid Roy Kapoor said, which you also echoed, the idea of playing catch up. That despite starting very recently, it's like 7-8 years, the streaming age. You do really feel like there are still some really, really great gems coming out of that. I do want to talk to you about the processes, that have been in place for the streaming space. But first off, do you watch a lot of shows, Indian shows wise? Do you have any favorites? I'd love to get your take.
Yes and no. I mean, in fact, they aren't, and I don't mean to sound cocky at all, because I'm not a cocky person, but, or I hope, but there haven't been too many good shows. We can count on our fingers, the good shows that have been, that have come out of India. So, I mean, I loved the first season of Made in Heaven. Yeah. I loved the first season of Sacred Games. Yeah. I loved, my favorite would be Panchayat.
Nice.
It's I think it's the most beautiful, gentle, is that one show that I wish I had made. Yeah. And I know I probably would never.
What is your version of Panchayat?
Would never be able to make.
Yeah.
It's just there's a simplicity to it, which I'm not sure if my work has.
Yeah. My two favorite things about Panchayat is you love it when a very, very good show also becomes a very, very popular show. Those lines go together. And also, I love that, for me, Panchayat defies algorithm. Right. It is, the way it sort of molds comedy and drama. You can't reverse engineer that. You can't, right. try and do that. It really comes from a very distinct voice. But speaking of the processes and power structures, we spoke to Vikram Aditya Motwani on this podcast last year, and he talked about, the concept of showrunning and what a showrunner is. It's something that, everyone in the industry is grappling with. Everyone's doing their own thing. And he described you as what a true blue showrunner is, a head writer, someone where you are the creative voice of that project who goes on to become the lead, the captain of that ship. But I sense that that's still an exception. I sense that people are still doing different things, and you seem, there are not many like that, which is what, if I'm not wrong, that is the Hollywood model. You have that. So why do you think that is? Why are you the exception?
This is one thing which doesn't make me feel good at all about being the exception. I really wish this was the model. So the showrunner in Hollywood came for a reason, right? The writer showrunner model, it came for the sheer fact that writing is the most important aspect of a show. So naturally, of a long form show, naturally this person is helming the most important part, right? It's also there are so many pieces, there are so many moving pieces that it's impossible for a director who has come in 3 months before the shoot is to begin to catch up with that. And there's only one person who can be on top of that. And it's really coming from there. But here, it's got to do with a few things. It's got to do with egos. It's got to do with the fact that how we have always been a very director-led industry. The director is the god here. It's funny. I still hear about these stories, these really sad stories about the showrunner being completely sidelined by the director in the making of a show, and something as ridiculous as that would never happen in Hollywood because the structures and the processes are in place. But here they're not. The studio would never back. They would go with, why don't you let him do his thing and then you can come back on the edit, and it's like that. There's never a clear answer to.
And we've heard those stories as recently as like a year ago. It's not like initially 5-6 years ago where you're understanding people are still finding their feet.
No, you hear it all the time. Yeah. I heard them last month. These stories, and they're not nice at all. So part of it has got to do with that this whole hero worshipping sort of culture that we have in India. It's not something specific to the industry. I think it's just as a country we are it's that. We can call it the Rajnikant syndrome or something. It's that part of it. The other part, has got to do with the fact that the writers are not taking up the onus. I think the writers are not stepping up their game. Okay. I think it's also important to know all the answers. Okay. To be at the top of it. See, it's the handicap that we have here compared to say the US is the writers there get trained in these writers' rooms, right? So you start as a junior writer, then you become a supervising writer, and then you work your way up.
There's a way up the ladder.
Co-exec producer, producer, showrunner. You work your way up the ladder, and in the process, you're also learning and picking up things and stuff, which is not happening here. So you've got to fend for yourself, but you can definitely train yourself by being more on the shoots, more as in be there. It's your shoot, it's your show,
But a lot of writers talk about how there's a writing ban on sets. How do you fight something like that?
I know, but you got to push your way through it. You really got to, if you make yourself useful. If you have written stuff which they can see is great. And if they know that, if you're the only fucker who really knows. The inside out of the script, the inside out of these characters, then they would really let you be on the set.
Okay.
They would really let you be. Forget about let you be. They would want you on the set. And that has been my experience. They would because a lot of times you see the directors floundering with, and you can't blame them because there is million gigabytes of information stored in these 8 episodes, right? If you're doing a show, कौन किसका बाप था, कौन किसका बेटा था, किसका क्या relation, there is a lot of backstories and forward stories and what you're going to do with it in the next season and what you did in the previous season.
And if you change just one thing, how much?
How just one, if you move one piece, how that impacts. A director is never going to know that. I mean, I've most directors, for a script that they have worked on with a writer, like a film script, on set, they would still be floundering. Because the only way you can really be on top of a script is if you were part of the creation of it. If you came in late, it's only information that you're soaking in rather than it just flowing from you, and
so you do think there's something writers can do to sort of...
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing that the writers can do, I mean, write better. I feel that's one thing where they get to respect your material. The other thing is really also to understand budgets. Do not be scared by an Excel sheet. It's important to understand Excel sheets. It's important to know how much costs, so that next time when you're putting in something, they don't laugh at your back, saying, it's just the writer doing his writer thing, like you don't know what this shit costs.
So if the system is not giving me those skills like it would elsewhere, you figure out what those skills are, you learn it yourself, and so prove yourself invaluable.
Absolutely. In my case, it was a little easier for me, given that I have an MBA background. It helped. It helped because
suddenly all the ex-engineer writers are useful.
It was one of those things. Like I looked at an Excel sheet, I was like, oh man, really, I have to do this again. I thought those days were over, but I wasn't shitting bricks. That helped. The other thing was, I was working with great producers. So I was also very lucky in that sense, where Clean Slate just made it very clear from day one that I was the boss, and that's how it's going to be.
Which again is the exception, unfortunately.
Which again is the exception, So but it's not systemic. It's not systemic. I mean, I knew that if I had fucked up at that point of time, you'd go back to being the writer and the director would take over, and it's just then it's free for all.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was about, are you surprised that 80% of the streaming space when it comes to shows is all crime and crime dramas? That's not a jibe at you. You happen to have made 2 of the finest. But are you surprised that everything that seems to be the sexy sort of trend is murder and decaf Mirzapur? Is that surprising at all, or did you sort of expect it?
I mean, I didn't. I expected it to the streaming space to start with that because it's the low-hanging fruit, right? It's got the allure of a mystery unfolding. It's got the allure of getting the audience to play the detective. And these are great sort of devices to keep them hooked in when you're starting off. I didn't expect it to last for this long. I expected us to kind of outgrow it and move on to, but then we are also suckers for continuity, and we and it's also if something works, and I actually, sometimes you feel a little responsible for it, because if one thing works, then they want to pursue with it, for a while,
I keep saying that's my favorite genre. Something great that inspired a bunch of shitty imitations. So you might be responsible for some aspect of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I've done 2 shows I've done 2 shows with 2 seasons. I'm going to do the second season of Kohrra after this, and really, honestly, this is my last one.
Yeah,
this is my last.
You said you want to do a comedy after this.
I'm going to do a comedy after this. I'm going to do a comedy. I'm going to do a family drama. I'm going to do anything but crime.
Yeah,
because it's. I think we need to change our palette a little now.
Yeah,
it's just too much of that.
You realize if what you make is good, there'll be a lot of shitty imitations of that. But okay, that's a few years from now problem.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you about the executive culture. We hear all the stories of the friction between sort of writers and platforms and all of that stuff. Do you think we're at a space now that it's been 7-8 years that we have executives who really get it, executives who at platforms who really understand storytelling?
We have a few.
Yeah.
We have a few, and I have been fortunate to work with some of them.
Yeah.
But it's not. Let's just say it's not rampant.
Yeah.
It's
exception.
Yeah. It's again. They are the exceptions rather than the rule. And I think it's again it's the entire ecosystem, man. It's we don't have enough good writing happening.
Yeah.
We don't have enough execs who are good and who can get it. It's the entire ecosystem, really. I mean, maybe there is some solace that it's not just one thing that we suck at. We suck at everything.
There's uniformity in the sucking.
I mean, at least we are consistent with it,
right? Am I allowed to ask you the difference in your experiences in working with Amazon and Netflix?
I mean, you can ask me that. I may not answer. So beyond a point, they're all the same.
Yeah.
It's beyond a point. It's a studio with lots of money, who is giving you some money to make something which makes some money for them.
Yeah.
That's beyond a point. It's that they have different cultures, and the personality of the person you're dealing with, kind of, because the systems and the processes are not that well defined, and both of these companies in India, they've only been around for 8 years. So they're also kind of finding their own space with it. They have different working styles. The processes at Netflix, I feel, are more attuned to doing this, because
doing shows,
to doing shows and films, and I think they take their role of being a media company very seriously.
Okay.
Because that's all they are.
Yeah. The only profitable streaming platform in the world. Yeah.
The only profitable, and for a reason, and that's the reason of their existence, right? That's why they're there. So they take it very seriously. If shit happens to these processes, shit goes down. If that's how they look at it, compared to, say, an Amazon, where it's a small part of
it's a hobby,
the beast. Right. It's a hobby. Really, it's a hobby, and if I was the richest man in the world, I would. I would like a few Hollywood stars to come at my party, and it's that. It's probably that. I don't know. So we'll see how long it lasts.
Yes,
the party.
And I guess also it must be difficult to ask you that question in terms of your experience with platforms, because I imagine if you're Sudip Sharma, or if you're one of those sort of premier storytellers, you tend to be left alone more as compared to, say, a New Voice. It would be my guess. In terms of, call it notes, friction, interference, all of those things. Do you also get a sense, whether it's either platform or generally, how the idea of success of a show? You have made 2 of the most sort of beloved shows, but how much of a sense of success do they give you? Are they telling you numbers? Do they just say, no, it's worked? How much information do you get? And how much information should you get?
I mean, I would love to get all the information.
Yeah.
Because information is power.
Yeah.
Right. But they don't tell you the.
Okay.
They don't tell you.
They'll just say season 2.
That's when you know.
Yeah.
If they are telling you, let's do season 2. If they are, if you get a hamper in the mail, if you get invited to a nice dinner, it has worked, right?
If you're not thrown off the WhatsApp group, something.
Yeah. So that's when you know, okay, it has worked.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you. They don't tell you very specific information.
Yeah.
Netflix shares more information than Amazon does.
Okay.
Amazon shares no information.
Okay.
There's no way for me to know. I mean, I have no idea how big a hit Paatal Lok was.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Was it like a medium hit?
Yeah.
Was it like a big hit?
Yeah.
Was it like a smallish hit? I have no idea.
So do you and then I guess as a filmmaker, you're going off social media and vibes and messages you're getting. And,
Yeah, totally. And it's worse for me because I'm not on social media.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just going by what people are telling me. I am not on any social media platform. So it's like if I'm getting a lot of messages and people are saying, and people are congratulating, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it worked.
But you never know if you're in an echo chamber or not.
Yeah, you never know that.
Scary.
So for me, it's if I meet people not from the industry and they talk about it, I see it as a barometer of, oh, okay, this must have worked.
Yeah.
If you meet some Gujarati uncle on the train and he's like, Saruche, and I'm like, okay, man, it worked maybe.
So after each release, you spend your time on trains a lot more. I can tell you from my perspective, it absolutely is a success. I don't run a streaming platform, but no, I think for the stuff that matters in terms of storytelling, for sure.
They don't tell you this, and I think there's a deliberate reason they don't tell you this. Because it's again, like I said, information is power, right?
Yeah.
And I would ask for a bigger budget.
Yeah.
If I knew how big a hit was. And by that, I don't mean a bigger budget. I'm asking for the right budget, and I'll have more bargaining power with me, right? This way, I don't. And also, there would be likes that I would be comparing. That comparison is not available to me.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way for me to know, because then I can counter and ask, okay, you put, from what I've heard, X crores in this particular show, and this did only this much.
Yeah.
But you're telling me for the second season of my show, you cannot give me anything more than this.
Yeah.
Although I have done 10 times that number. How does that work? I can ask those very pointed questions, but probably they don't want to divest with that. With that information, they don't want to divest with that power.
My take on this has been exactly that. That there is an advantage to a lack of numbers. It means that you can't make it a spectator sport like films are. People trading box office as if it's any of their business, just audience members. But the flip side of it is, I think creators and artists should have every right to that information, because if you've made a massive hit, if you've made the Mirzapurs and the Indian Game of Thrones or whatever that looks like, whether it's budget, even if it's whether it's in terms of just negotiating power of how much those writers and creators and directors are getting paid, I think they absolutely do deserve that. In a world where we have no residuals and things like that,
right?
I absolutely do think that should be the case. But these are the
rules.
It's
also it's. I personally feel it's only going to be, because right now there is a lot of obfuscation happening around which thing has worked. Like we were talking about not knowing which show works, and it's that, right? I mean, everything is a hit on OTT.
Yeah.
Everything is a hit. Yeah. I mean, I know of actors and I know of stars who prefer certain kind of films to come only on OTT. If they think the film is risky, they would prefer it to come on OTT,
because they can say whatever they want.
Because if it goes to the box office and it doesn't work, then it's a flop against their name.
Yeah.
And here, the PR machinery would make it seem like, oh, it worked.
The success party comes before the release date.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it doesn't cost much to throw a success party, right? A few lakhs. I mean, a star can afford it.
Or you can spin the numbers as in 1 billion minutes streamed.
Right.
And then we're all like, I don't.
Yeah, what does it even mean?
I don't know what that means.
What does it mean?
Like 1 billion people watched 1 minute. But no, I do want to talk to you about the current scenario, because, as I said, I spoke to a few writers, and they said that the scenario today is, it obviously is very, very bleak. You have platforms who are not commissioning shows. You have mergers and takeovers and things like that. It just seems like a very bleak time. But, I spoke to writers who said that, who've been working in the industry for close to 2 decades, and they said it's never been this bad. Even in a pre-OTT era, everything from shows getting infinitely delayed and shelved, things not getting commissioned, writers not getting paid for shows they've been working on for years, shows getting halted or cancelled days before production. And these are fairly big known filmmakers, directors, writers. These are not, so it just makes you wonder what's happening to the newer voices. So I guess the idea being that is the golden age of streaming over? Do you feel like in terms of the stories that were told, in terms of how people were paid and all of that stuff, do you feel like this is it? This the party's over?
I think so. I think so. I think the party's over. I mean, there might be smaller parties in the future, but the the arrival party is over.
Yeah.
And it's also a function of what's happening out in the West, and we are kind of sort of following the trend as always. The peak TV is dead. In the West, it's dead. They had a really long party.
Yeah.
They had a good 10-year run, which was again fueled by by really the stock market rather than anything else. It wasn't. So what we assumed for the longest time, that it was Hollywood's love for good cinema, or TV execs' love for good television, or good storytelling. It wasn't that. It really was the stock market throwing money at Netflix and Amazon just to get just to keep the subscriber base going up, and to make money, and to make money off it, on the stock market. It was really that, and that is dead. And you see all of those repercussions coming on to India as well. And unfortunately, we had not even we were just getting started. I mean, we were in the sundowner when the party came to a halt, really. Also because now is when we have just probably learned what to do with that money.
In what way?
What to do with those budgets? Because the first few years were spent in really, as an industry, learning what are the kind of shows we should be making, how to make shows, and how to write a good show and stuff like that. Now is when we probably have had like good 7-8 years of experience in that, and we are in a position to be able to, like, I honestly wish when I was making the first season of Paatal Lok with a story like that, I wish I had that experience that I have now. And I know I would have done a kick-ass show, because it was a great story. And I mean, we reached somewhere with it, but I didn't have the experience, honestly.
So by that logic, if things stayed the same for the next few years, we could have had some insane storytelling.
Absolutely. I mean, but yeah, I think we are ready, for that show, which can work internationally. I would say, if we were just back. But yeah, it looks bleak. It looks bleak. It's not. I mean, I've been around for a while. These are the darkest times that I've seen. I mean, not so much for me personally, maybe, because fortunately, the last one worked. And if the last one worked, they let you make the next one. It's as simple as that. So they're letting me make the next one, but things have really tightened down, and things have really tightened down across the industry. So we are going to have even worse shows coming out now, if we didn't have bad shows enough already,
No, I do want to ask you about that. But no, it is, as you said, I spoke to writers who said that, very practically, they've been looking at things like financial planning and, like rent and things like that, because it really is a very difficult time. And in terms of sort of, this will get a bit depressing, but in terms of when the dust settles, I do want to pick your brain on what you think the streaming space will be on the other side of this. So one thought was the idea of the only thing that from an audience perspective we'll get a year or two from now, the big franchise shows, your big things. But outside of that, in terms of the smaller shows, the best things we've made, that's the thing that we're just not going to get. It really will just be the big flashy thing. And yeah, so is that a fear that you have, that it really will just be spectacularly franchise stuff?
So, I mean, I think we are going to replicate, I feel, we are going to replicate what's happening in the West.
Yeah.
I think it's the mid-budget show which is going to die.
Okay.
It's the kind of shows that people like me make.
Yeah. Which are the best.
The big shiny shows are going to stay.
Yeah.
Because that's a star that you're putting your money against. And see, what happens is, if you put your money behind a star and if he fails, you don't lose your job.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you have the insurance. Like, I mean, man, what's my mistake in it? You have an excuse.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
it's not me, it's their stardom.
Yeah. It's and then he did. I mean, I did the best thing. I got you this star, and we made a show with this star. Come on. But it didn't work. So too bad. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Your job stays. it's the mid-budget show that's going to get axed. So we are going to have either the sort of the Amazon minis, we would have like
Content.
the
Yeah.
TVF-ish
Yeah.
shows coming out,
Yeah.
or this new term that has started coming in of
TV
late,
Plus.
TV Plus, which is as depressing as it sounds, this whole TV Plus thing. And so it's going to be either that or the big shiny ones, the in between shows. That's going to be tough. And then what happens is the big shiny shows and the smaller budget shows. I'm generalizing, but they don't have the best storytelling.
Yeah.
It's because really with the smaller shows, you're just trying to make it somehow in that little budget that you've got. I mean, or the big shiny shows, you want to reach the broadest possible audience that you can reach. And it's the mid-budget storytelling all across, even in Hollywood, it's the mid-budget shows that give you the best of the storytelling.
There's something very tragic about the fact that shows in India replace the mid-budget films like the ones you've made in the past that you've written, which happen to be some of the finest films we make every year. And now the shows, the mid-budget shows, which are the finest stories we tell every year, even that's sort of at risk, which is very, very tragic. But yes, TV Plus is the other sort of big buzzword nowadays of platforms telling writers that, I think it was Geo who was sort of asking for 100-episode shows, somebody said, or there have been platforms asking writers for 25-episode family-friendly shows. So it's almost like is the future of streaming regular TV.
Yeah,
it just seems like that's the direction.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that. It sounds like that, and there's also this danger of. Some of the consolidation that's happening in the industry was overdue because there were too many OTT platforms.
But does that not scare you? Do you not need multiple buyers as a writer pitching a script around town?
Absolutely. Yeah. What is worse than having too many platforms is having too few platforms. Because then you're going to. And my fear is that in 2-3 years time, not too long, we're going to be left with 2 at max 3 platforms, and then you'll be at their mercy, and then what happens is the biggest of them, we know who that would be, the biggest of them is going to just bring the price down to a level which everyone else will be forced to play at, and then it would be like, oh, okay, you want to make shows, sure, but this is all you get. And that's how it is right now, that's how, it's the discussions have stopped being about, oh, okay, this is the story, this is what it's going to cost, but you know what, can we make it in this? No, it's not that, which is still a polite discussion to have. Now the discussion has changed to, you know what, I don't care what your story is, this is what I've got, you want to make something or you want to walk out of the door. That's what the conversation has come down to.
I wanted to get your advice on what you tell a writer today. I'm not even going to ask you about sort of the very young writers who have just taken their first steps. I imagine it's very difficult for them and they'll be forced to adapt. But what about the writers who, I've been in 2-3 writers' rooms. I have solid credits to my name. I've written, I've been a part of good shows. And, for that writer, it seems to be a very, very bleak time right now. As I said, things are getting shelved and halted and indefinitely delayed. And you don't know when the dust is going to settle. So what advice would you have for that writer in terms of, at best, it feels like a lot of these writers, even if they're still getting paid to be writers, God knows if that show will even get made. So would you have any advice for them of like, how do I sort of tide through?
Hone your craft, I would say, be smart about it. If they are saying that we can only make a small budget show, then write a kick-ass small budget show. You can't fight the tidal wave. This it's not possible. So ride with the wave. But that doesn't mean you sell out on your craft. Okay, you want to, when films stopped happening and there were more shows getting made, then a lot of us shifted to making shows, and but then you make the shows so good that you kind of start overtaking films, So I would still suggest the same thing, and it's the hardcore, maybe Gen X advice that put your head down and work. I don't know if it works for the younger kids these days, but that's what I would do.
So if I'm being squeezed into, okay, you don't get that budget for anything interesting and clutter breaking and something distinctive, if they're saying that you only get this minute budget, find a way of writing an amazing show within that budget.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
yeah, like Panchayat is the perfect example of that. They had only that much money. That's what was allotted to the show, and they made a kick-ass show. So
Absolutely.
it is possible.
Yeah.
They showed that it is possible to and it's about then just doing the best version of it. So be ambitious with your craft and with your story. Maybe it's not the time to be ambitious with your budgets.
I also spoke to a writer who said it could be a particularly tricky time for senior accomplished writers who've really proved their mettle and who command a certain fee, and justifiably so, because you're at a time where, because we have a larger pool of writers, a platform can just as easily say, I'll just get a young writer to do it for peanuts, because the quality of writing doesn't matter that much to me.
Right.
And sort of that class of sort of well-paid, in quotes, writer who's really sort of worked, for years and years and years and is very, very talented, they're the ones who could stand to suffer. If they're not sort of showrunners and things like that. Do you feel like that's a possibility?
I think so. I think overall the incomes are going to come down.
Yeah.
There are going to be a few of these star sort of showrunners, directors, showrunners who will still command an obscene kind of fee, which would be higher than the budgets that you get, the most of us get for making our shows.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's going to, I think even the accomplished writers, even the senior writers, they're going to see a dip in, which is also something that happened in Hollywood. It was a big dip, and that's why they protested and they went on a strike.
I spoke to one filmmaker who's worked on shows, and they said that they're very seriously looking back at feature films and shifting back to the big screen. Is that a shift you see coming at all in terms of storytellers who've really done some really interesting work in streaming? Because it feels like the theatrical landscape is still a very question marky space right now.
Right.
But do you feel that shift happen? Because so many of our finest storytellers shifted to streaming and came out with such fine work, including yourself. And I'm guessing that long form really spoils you. Do you see a potential shift back to the big screen at all?
I mean, I do see a shift in the industry.
Yeah.
Because I remember a couple of years back, they were all saying theaters were dead.
Yeah.
That's what the word around town was. That people have stopped going to screens, and it's not going to be, movies are not going to exist anymore, especially right after COVID. And that has, I think that talk has stopped. There have been films which have worked and which have worked uproariously well. They have been of a certain kind, the films. Again, these are films which I still feel that to pull people back into theaters, you need the power of a star. I think we have come to that. Let's just accept that. So, a Pathaan works because it is this man called Shah Rukh Khan, who the country has been in love with for 30 years. And they hadn't seen him in a while, and they were dying to see him. And it was really that, so, I mean, there are going to be these big hits, but these are going to be these star-driven numbers. And I actually I don't see it as a conflict at all, because, that's what cinema was always meant for. It was meant for these star vehicles, so you make those films for the theaters, and then you keep the finer, more nuanced storytelling for the OTTs. In fact, it's a great space to be in.
Yeah.
But now that OTTs are coming down, I mean, I do see writers shifting back to writing some of that. Some of us who had moved to streaming, I do see us moving back to. I don't think I would do it, because I personally don't understand the theatrical space at all anymore. I don't understand what is the kind of film they want to make. I don't understand what are the kind of films that they want to watch. Because none of the stuff that they are making, I am interested in watching. Forget about making myself. So it's that little bit of a limbo space for me as far as the theaters is concerned. Because none of the films that I wrote in the past, I don't think any of them are going to get greenlit today.
Could you make NH10 today?
No, none of them. Urta will not get made.
Absolutely.
Sonchuriya will not get made. None of these films,
At least a few years ago, we could say, no, but that might be a show today.
Right.
But that's, even now.
Right. Even that's changing now. So it is a little scary. I'll be honest with you. Once you think of it like that, it is a little scary that, oh man, I'm only 45. Am I going to be like, going to be out of work in a few years? I thought I was doing okay.
Yeah. I think you'll be fine. Even I'm getting an existential crisis.
I hope so.
No, because even if you look at this year, the question is like, theatrically, are we to celebrate? And I do think there's a lot to celebrate, that some very interesting smaller films have been released theatrically, and that's wonderful. Independent films, smaller films, but at the same time, none of them exactly doing the numbers.
Right.
So are you just grateful they exist, or have people just been conditioned that that film will just go on streaming? Somebody said to me recently, it's ironic that streaming came in and became a safe haven for great storytelling, but then now that space is a question mark. But streaming also just like sort of upended the theatrical space.
Right.
So then, you're neither here nor there, then where do you go?
Yeah. So, so let's look at why these films are releasing.
Yeah.
In the theaters, suddenly, it's because the OTTs have changed the policies. And they say, okay, if you want this film to come on,
release it
first. Because why are they doing it? Because they don't want to spend anything on marketing.
Yeah.
So they are now asking the producer to take care of the marketing, and they're just going to put it on their platforms. Once you have done the hard job. It doesn't help anyone. I would love to, if I'm a filmmaker making a film, I would love to see it on the big screen, but it doesn't help anyone if it's just your aunt and a few friends who saw it. It doesn't help anyone, because then you have this whole tag of "Arey, ye picture kisi ne nahi dekhi" and all of that. All of that, and you live with that stigma then for the rest of your life. It doesn't help. So it's a tricky sort of space. Streaming did upend this whole thing, and it kind of then left us floundering, because now you're supposed to just take care of it yourself. And what's that supposed to mean? What's that supposed to mean? I'm not even sure.
I wanted to ask you the self-censorship question. Obviously, over the last few years, in a post-Tandav world, there's no question of sort of a big, in quotes, political show. But even shows that are inherently political, shows that that you champion, which are about us, I don't know how else to put them. Does it feel like that extent of self-censorship from writers is at an all-time high in terms of people just?
No, absolutely,
really,
absolutely,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever self-censored myself this much, as I've been doing in the last 2 years. It's almost. Nothing passes my censor. Nothing passes it anymore. And it's just like I kill it at the thought level. Like, are you kidding me? It's out. It's really that bad, because I know it's not going to make it. It's not going to make it. And it's ridiculous, because some of these are great ideas.
Of course.
But you never be able to make them, and that's the thing. Once you have these. Just 2 or 3 players in the market is going to become even worse, because
they control what's made.
Yeah, because it's also now the interests are aligned, and they don't want to upset the. Because what happens is, if there are 10 or 12 players, now there's also this desperation to make something, and there's also this sort of. Competition to create a noise and pick up on something which you might be like, oh, hang on, this might be controversial, but you know what? That's great. Controversy is great. We want a show like that.
They almost have to do something distinctive, not experimental, but something that stands
disruptive,
out.
Right. Yeah. Which now they're not trying. We're like, okay, man, we're just going to play it safe, and all of them are, just started playing it so safe that it's funny.
That's something that Vikram Aditya Motwani told us last year on the podcast. He said that he literally said, I think he's read some of the finest scripts he has of films that would never ever get made. He said that the level of writing he's come across is insane for certain projects. But he said, like you said, the internal censor, this can never get made, and it's truly tragic. I also want to get your perspective on, on a slightly different topic. I was just thinking about how much the lives of writers have changed over the last few years, streaming and otherwise. And there's also been the rise of the agency. A lot of writers like yourself are represented. And conceptually, that sounds wonderful. The idea of somebody batting for the writer and really protecting them, financially and otherwise. Has sort of the agency culture of writers having agents to help negotiate and things like that, has that made the step change difference for the writing community as much as we would have hoped a few years ago?
I think so. I think it has definitely made a big change compared to when I had started out, because you were really left on your own.
Yeah.
I remember back when back 2005 2006, when I would when I had just kind of joined the industry. God, it's been 20 years almost.
Congratulations.
And and imagine being 27 years old and sitting in front of this 60-year-old producer, and he's like, "Itna hai mere paas, tere ko karna hai kya?" It really was that.
Yeah.
Some version of that.
And power structures wise, you say yes.
Yeah,
what do you do?
and it was really, you had absolutely zero say in it at all. You just took whatever came your way. Sometimes you were just happy that, oh, you're going to get paid for it. Not bad. Whatever that number is. Okay, it's going to cover for the auto rickshaw fare and for the food on the way. Okay, I'll take it. So I mean, we have definitely come a long way. Has it changed as much as we once hoped at one point of time? I don't think so. I don't think so, because they also got smarter and all of that.
They'll find loopholes.
Yeah,
find the writers without agents.
Find the loopholes, and some. I mean, so for example, the overall numbers have gone up. So if, say, the standard pay for writing a writing a film at that point in time was X, it has now become 4X. Okay. But you never see that 4X, unless the film gets made. So it's almost like, you'll get 30% of that 4X or 40% of that 4X. So what you actually end up making is 1.2 to 1.6X.
Which is why you need to write multiple things at once to get by.
Yeah. And which is why the quality is what it is. It's all that. This is what I mean by just the ecosystem not providing that support system to the writers. To be able to write good stuff and to be able to dedicate a year that a script needs to writing.
To be good and worthwhile.
To be any good.
Onto a slightly happier topic. What can you tell us about Paatal Lok season 2? I waited as long as I physically could to ask.
It's coming after 4.5 years.
Yeah.
It's been a tough one. It's been a tough one to write. It's been a tough one to mount. It's been a tough one to make. I think I've moved on to. I think I've become significantly older in the making of.
It's aged you.
It has really aged me, man. It has really aged me in a way that it's not funny. I feel old in my head, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Whenever I think of Paatal Lok, it's been tough, but it's exciting. I think. I think it's the best thing I've made so far, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm just. It's set in the Northeast. It's Hathiram going on another adventure to the Northeast this time, and then we follow the story and whatever happens there. And I think we have managed to do something special with it this time.
I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I can't wait. We all need things to look forward to in this world, and just stories to really excite us. It feels like it's been a bit of a slow year, so I'm absolutely very much looking forward to that. I always ask this question at the end. It's a bit of a weird question to ask now, considering everything we've discussed, but I'll try anyway. What is one thing you would change about the streaming space in terms of how it functions today?
Make less stuff, but make better stuff. Give it more time. I would say, instead of commissioning 20 things and then canceling half of them, just put your money behind the solid guys. Put your money behind.
Go deeper, not wider.
Yeah, go deeper, not wider. Really, I would say that, and give it time. Give it time. Like my, that logic that we always that is always given out to you here is, but why do you need a year to write this? Why don't you just take more people, in the room, take a bigger writer's room, and then maybe we can churn it out faster. And that's like saying, if you had 3 women, you can churn out a baby in 3 months. No, it's still going to take 9 months, right?
Yeah.
And that, I think that needs to be acknowledged, and that needs to be respected. I don't think there is that respect for the time that something. That the time that the cooking of a show needs.
It takes as long as it takes.
It takes as long as it takes, and there's no point hurrying it.
Yeah. I was talking to a writer recently. It was on the topic of writers' rooms, and they said that sometimes, I was just saying, what are the most common mistakes that happens in writers' rooms? And they said sometimes there would be a producer or platform exec or somebody, a suit in the room, and they don't understand the nuts and bolts of those first few weeks and whatever it looks like to get to a destination. And then that'll just put them in a panic, and then that'll just destroy the room, or you involve them in the creative process at the right time. So no, that's exactly what I thought of that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's. I mean, I keep them out.
Yeah.
Like, you're not allowed in till the time it's cooked to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And then we can invite you over for a tasting menu. But till that time, it's there's no point, because it's you throw a lot of pieces at the at the wall. Some of them stick, some of them don't, and
especially the beast of a series.
Yeah. It's also, like, to be honest, we all floundered with the writing of it. Like, I remember when all of us were assembled in the Sacred Games room, and I was like, so what do we do now? It's almost
sticky
like
notes.
Yeah, because till that point of time, it was always it was always like you do your own thing. You, as a writer, you're like, okay, you have a few discussions with the director, and then you go and write the thing. That's how it was. And same thing on Paatal Lok. I mean, when we all of us had started working, and it was like, okay, let's like invent a process, rather than really knowing what works. And it was weird. Like, I thought it was pretty stupid, the process that we followed on the first season of Paatal Lok.
Google how to show, right?
Yeah, did all of that, and like we would meet every Saturday, and then that's once a week, and I was like, what was I even thinking?
It sounds like a very strange but exciting process as well. Learning from scratch.
Yeah. There was also this joy of discovering something. Yeah. But so it's really that. I mean, it was just too new for all of us, and now is when we have got the hang of it. And I really feel, and I would say that again, that I think the time has come for that great show to come out of India, and
that breaks out.
It is completely possible to do that, and I hope it does.
I do think if you had to make a list of shows that really do feel like they absolutely break out of the crowd, yours would absolutely be on that list for sure. But no, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your perspective. Thank you for being the exception and not conforming to the norm. The space is all the better for it. And if we just hope that for as long as possible we do keep getting stories like that. Selfishly speaking, that's my hope. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Suchin. It was lovely being here.
I hope you guys got as much out of this conversation as I did. You can catch the entire first season of the Streaming Show podcast on Spotify and on all major podcast platforms. Before we go, a quick word on MUBI. MUBI is a curated one-stop shop streaming service dedicated to great cinema from around the globe. You can try MUBI for free for 30 days at mubi.com/The Streaming Show. This week, I highly recommend you check out Occupied. Filmed in Palestine between 2016 and 2017, director Pranav Pingle Reddy's documentary explores the lives of young artists in Palestine through 5 stories of people who use their art, be it music, calligraphy, poetry, or dance, as a form of expression, resilience, dissent, and above all, as a way of celebrating life. Painfully timely and devastatingly hopeful, the film is a deeply affecting commentary of how we see certain regions and cultures as little more than conflict zones, and its people as little more than victims. Occupied refuses to underline their suffering and insists on recognizing their humanity and celebrating their artistry. Above all, the film showcases the role of art during times of crisis as a means of bringing people together, documenting history, and processing the unforgivable. You can watch Occupied on MUBI.